Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni moni wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so honored and so delighted that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show, and please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Himalaya, Ghana, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Robin Hall. She is here to celebrate the Littlest Weaver. Before we invite Robin into the studio, we want to invite you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Reading With Your Kids on TikTok, and at Jedley Magic on Twitter. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Jed Doherty. And we would love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. We have an amazing online magazine we are so proud of that we would love for you to check out. It is absolutely free, and you can find it on our blog. Just go to readingwithyourkids.com and click on the Parents Click Here button at the top of the page and scroll on down to blog. If you are an author, please be sure to check out the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page to find out how you can be a guest here on the podcast and how you can take advantage of some of our promotional programs. You can find it all on our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Join us right now from the beautiful state of North Carolina. Our guest is here today to celebrate her debut picture book. It's from our friends at Familias Publishing. It is called The Littlest Weaver. Please welcome to the show, Robin Hall. Hey, Robin, how are you?
I'm doing so good. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm delighted to have you on, and I can't wait for you to tell us all about The Littlest Weaver, please.
Sure. So I can show you, I don't know that anyone else, if you record it, but The Littlest Weaver is about a little girl named Laurel, and she lives with her father in the Appalachian Mountains, specifically in the Southern Highlands region, which is where there's a lot of weaving culture. And they weave story rugs for their town. And a newcomer comes into town, and he's sad, and Laurel recognizes sadness and wants to do some nice things for him. And so she reaches out, and he doesn't want to be, he wants to be alone at first. He doesn't really appreciate their attention, but they finally make him a story rug that helps him to process some of his sadness in his past and helps him to be able to join the community, and they become good friends. So that's The Littlest Weaver.
What a fascinating idea. What a great tradition. Talk a little bit more, Robin, about this idea of telling stories through these woven rugs.
So there's different ways that rugs, and you've probably heard of like quilts and stuff that tell stories. And so there's a lot of different patterns specifically for weaving. But what Laurel and her father do is more like a tapestry weaving that they do on a traditional counterbalance loom, which they're really big. Like some of them were actually considered barn looms, and they would sit on your porch. They wouldn't even be inside your house, and you would just have them out during, like it could be in the spring, summer, fall, and you would have to put them away, kind of a thing, depending on seasons. And she, specifically in the book, you'll see that they have sheep and they use their own wool, but you can tell stories, and it's pretty complicated. Like, I'm a weaver and I do a little bit of tapestry weaving, but it is complicated. Like, you have to figure out, you draw what's called a cartoon, which is like the image that it's going to be. And then you just weave back and forth in little patterns, kind of like if you were coloring, right? You've got one color that you put in one area, and then you put another color in another area, and you slowly can build up the tapestry.
That's really...
And of course, with tapestry, there's warp threads that go vertically, and then the weft is what you're building up, and that goes horizontally.
It's really fascinating. You know, the idea of telling stories through pictures, I mean, that's, you know, kind of something that we've been doing since prehistoric times. But I never really appreciated it fully until I visited a shrine in just north of Quebec City in Quebec, Canada. And there, the entire Bible is told through different mosaics. Down the center aisle is one book of the Bible, and this wall is another book, and the windows are still another book. And I found it really fascinating. You know, for me, going into a church or a mosque, it was always like, oh, that's a cute standalone kind of statue. And I never connected that these different pieces of art could be telling a story. And the idea that we can tell a story through rugs or quilts, I think it's so beautiful. And I think it's something that we need to be careful that we don't lose it.
Yes, that's part of why I became kind of fascinated with this tradition and this history. I began actually weaving baskets, learning how to make Appalachian baskets. And then, of course, you start weaving one thing, like your gateway drug, and you want to learn how to make more. And that is, I was so interested in how weaving started and understanding just, you know, the loom is actually one of the earliest machines that they've been able to find created in all of history, is a weaving loom. And so dating way, way back. And if you think about, trying to remember the statistic, it's kind of crazy. Just to make fabric, like how many miles of thread you need to make a sheet. And I want to say it was, oh my goodness, I'm going to be wrong. But I think it was like 100 miles of thread. And I remember for jeans, it's 25 miles of jean thread to make a pair of jeans. I mean, so it's so much thread, like there's so much production that goes into it. And of course, you know, we needed clothing, but it's not just basic things, right? Like, people from the past and today, you can take functional things and make them beautiful and fill the world with art, and also teach, you know, history, tell stories. Family stories are often preserved in tapestry. And you mentioned the biblical stories, and it was often huge communities of people that would all be working on a tapestry that's maybe, you know, as big as the room you might be in. And they're going to be sitting all along the wall and slowly working the tapestry up. And so like whole communities would sit and do that together.
Wow.
So
Fascinating.
kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So you refer in the information that I got before our interview, you refer to Appalachian weaving. And, you know, we hear you were talking about, you know, weaving kind of being a gateway drug. Unfortunately, a lot of what we hear about Appalachia and that region of the country is about the devastation that people have experienced due to the opioid crisis. And I know that, yes, there's poverty in there. Yes, there's this devastation that's happened through opioids. But I know that Appalachia is much more than that, that there is a very specific and unique culture in Appalachia. Can you talk a little bit about what Appalachian weaving is and how it differs from other types of weaving, and a little bit more about the culture of Appalachia, please?
Sure. So first, just to say, I think a lot of people, maybe they watch or they've seen like a hillbilly show or something, Beverly Hillbillies or something, and then they think that is specifically what Appalachia looks like, or how the people are. And so first I want to say, I'm always trying to careful not to categorize a certain region and saying these people do this, because there is a lot of variety even within, different cultures, that are still in that same community. But, so Appalachia, and, you know, it's more in the mountains, of course. So they're kind of more cut off, right, from a lot of the rest of the communities. And that's why there's some things that are kind of a little bit more insular, or why the language there is often obviously different than in other areas. But it's a huge area. It's very big. Like family is very important. So, and I appreciate that a lot, that family matters so much. And the art, it's amazing to me that it's a lot of often kind of simpler living, a little bit slower than if you're in a city. And I feel like there's a lot of appreciation for nature, partly because they're in such a beautiful place, right? And maybe your house might not be, and some there are giant houses there, but also like I would say the average person lives in a more normal size. But the woods and trails and beauty are right outside, right? So there's a lot more going outside and I hope appreciating what's out there. And as far as like weaving, the traditional, like a counterbalance loom, there are a lot of production looms now that are jack looms, but that's probably way more technical than you need. So it's a very, very simple that you have like rollers on the top that move shafts up and down. And they're just going to move in opposition. And so that allows you to weave over and under. So you're going to have, your feet are going to push down on basically what's like pedals. Like you can imagine you're playing an organ, pushing the pedals, and then you're going to throw a shuttle that has the yarn, that weft yarn back and forth is the very basic. But there are a lot of traditional patterns. If you've heard of coverlets, and there's a lot of very traditional that they would make these gorgeous blankets, but it wouldn't be, and like, it would be like a grandma would make one. It takes so much time. And so they're more like family heirlooms than something that every day someone would sit at the loom and weave that. They're going to be making, basic fabric to sew into clothing or into, sheets and things like that. But they are very famous for their coverlets. Mm-hmm. And they, for what's called overshot. And so, and you've probably seen like, Lee's Surrender is one of the most famous one. And it kind of looks like, and some people also think it looks like bows, like a bow tie. But so there are very specific patterns that were passed down that you will see in the Appalachian tradition of weaving, but overshot is the most common.
It really is fascinating. I've been to different museums where I've seen weaving demonstrated. It's an incredible process. It obviously takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. You mentioned grandmas making family heirlooms. My grandmother crocheted a blanket for me when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And that stayed with me. That survived decades until she passed. And it literally, she would have to fix it every couple of years. She'd take it back and fix it. And then once she passed, there was no one left to fix it. And so it finally disintegrated. But I understand that. But to me, the reason that Afghan was so special to me is because I knew my grandmother made it for me. I knew that she had spent all these hours painstakingly, because that, whether you're doing a loom, you're doing crochet with the needles, and that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It hurts, and so there's pain, there's sweat, but there's obviously a lot of love. And that's the first thing I'm thinking about. We love to talk to authors about what families can talk about while they're reading a book. And that's something I'm guessing that comes through loud and clear in The Littlest Weaver, is just that idea of love. Mm-hmm.
We can, and creating together as families. I actually have a couple different weaving projects that I take with me when I visit schools. And I can do weaving with paper and I bring my loom so they can see a demonstration of, weaving. But it's fun to think about what families can create together and families serving other people together. And I'm hoping that this book fosters both of those things.
Yeah, I love that idea of coming together and creating something for somebody else. as your character creates for that lonely man who moves into town. What a beautiful gift, and what a great thing to do as a family. I'm imagining, even if the people who receive your gift aren't able to care for it the way I cared for the Afghan my grandmother made, you're able to take that time together as a family. We did this together when, Sally, when you were 9, 10 years old, whatever, we came together, we made this, and we gave it to a family. We saw somebody in need, and we went together. We went to work at it. We worked for hours. We shared what we were blessed with others, and we gave that blessing on. What a great way to teach our kids to look out for others and to care for others and to share with what we have with others.
I wanted to really point out, and because sometimes I feel like the world feels really big, and I wanted Laurel, just this little girl, to be the one that notices the need and is able to instigate and fill that. Just a reminder that all of us, whether we're, in our 40s or whether we're, 6 years old, we can see a need and we can find solutions and we can make differences in our community.
Was there a specific act of kindness that you witnessed or experienced that inspired this book?
This book came kind of really roundabout, actually. So in 2011, there was the massive tsunami in Tohoku, and I heard a story about a man that tried to go back and save his family, and he saw them all washed away. And I was so sad for this one specific story and this one man that I had to make up his ending. So he was the sad man coming to this place. And, so it is kind of a different jumping off part, but I needed to give him a little bit of hope. And so I imagined that he would move. In this story, he comes from the North Carolina coast. And in my mind, there's this great hurricane, that totally devastated Diamond City in, 1899. So in my brain, for the book, it's not specific in there, but, so he would have left and gone far. The first line is, far from the sea in the hills and hollers of Appalachia's great southern highlands. So a man that went far away from the sea got as far away from that as possible. Anyway, so that's my initial inspiration, was helping him find a little bit of peace and a little bit of hope for his future.
Yeah. So important. This is your debut picture book. How does it feel? And I know it's coming, but how did it feel for you when you first received your first copy of the book, to see your words and ideas? Now it's true. It's happened. There is a book with my ideas, and it's real.
Yeah, it was very exciting for me to receive a copy. And I had sold this book in 2020, but then lots of things happened in 2020. And anyway, so publications was delayed. A lot of things kind of took longer than was expected. So it was a long time to actually getting to hold it. And I didn't even know at the time, if I would have a copy before October. So it was I was super happy. I actually cried when I opened it, and I sat down with my youngest and I read him the story, and he said, "I like that, Mom, but, maybe you could write something like Dog Man next time." But Stella Lim, is the illustrator for this book. And I was so happy on how she was able to portray accurately, the Appalachian region and the Blue Ridge Mountains and just the weaving tradition. It's so complicated. And, we had kind of this Pinterest board where, I had, lots of, pictures, of course, of Appalachia and pictures of looms and weaving tools. But it was beautiful to see the whole thing and just to, be able to hold your own book.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And of course, our kids can never appreciate fully what we do, because we're just mom and dad. And they don't understand that, the whole world is going to have a chance to embrace the Littlest Weaver at some point. Do you take a moment to think about that there are literally going to be hundreds of thousands of families all around the country, all around the world, who are going to be sitting and reading your book together?
I would love to imagine that. That sounds amazing to me. Families sitting together, and hopefully it's going to make them want to create, and that they'll love the book enough that, once they finish it, they'll turn back to the beginning and read it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
I guess the one question I have to ask you is, has your son inspired you to write Rug Man or Rug Girl for your next book? Some kind of superhero that comes out of a weave?
Well, I haven't gone to that level, but I do have other books that I've written. I am currently working on a middle grade, more of an adventure novel, that hopefully he'll think is a little bit more fun, about a boy that gets to live in a lighthouse and learns how to sail and goes off on his own adventure. So that's a little bit more what he would enjoy.
That's wonderful. Hey, we would enjoy knowing where we could go to find out more about you and find out more about the Littlest Weaver.
So you can go to my website, which is www.robinhallwrites.com. Or I'm also on Instagram, and that's at Robin Hall Writes. And Robin is Robin, like the bird. And the Littlest Weaver, you can find it anywhere that books are sold, and hopefully also at your local library.
Yeah, and we always love to remind people that, if a book, because there are literally thousands of books published every single month, and every independent bookstore can't stock every book, and every library can't have every book. But if you bring a book to the attention of your local bookstore owner, manager, or bring it to your local librarian, you're going to put it on their radar, and the chances are they're going to reach out and bring that book to your community. So go down, even if you get your own copy of The Littlest Weaver, go down and ask for it, and let other people have access to it. I think it would be a wonderful story and a great chance for families to take a visit to a part of the United States that's a little bit misunderstood and not really known. And it is a really beautiful part of the world.
Thank you. I really do think it is. And I hope it inspires people to go and to visit.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing a pre-order giveaway, which probably this will already be, I don't know when this is coming out, but that is a 4-night stay in the mountains of Appalachia, so people can go and see it.
Awesome. And if by chance this is this is published before that contest is over, where can people go to sign up for that?
So it's on my website, where they can sign up for the pre-order giveaway. You just have to show a receipt. It'll take you to a Google form. So.
Wonderful. We've had a great time speaking to the author of The Littlest Weaver, the debut picture book from our guest, Robin Hall. Hey, Robin, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be here with you and visit.
Please join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Jen Malia. She'll be here to celebrate her brand new series. It's called The Infinity Rainbow Club. If you love somebody who is neurodivergent, or if you know of somebody who loves somebody who is neurodivergent, so that includes like everyone, you want to be sure to check out this episode of the podcast. Characters in the Infinity Rainbow Club include kids who are on the autism spectrum, who are challenged by ADHD and OCD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and other brain differences. This is a great series that can really help spread awareness and acceptance and understanding. That's the next episode of the podcast. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our guest, Robin Hall. Please be sure to check out The Littlest Weaver. I also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Soji Franklin, Ann O'Leary. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.